David started his journey in Nigeria in the University of Benin. He graduated with the first class in the University of Benin, and he also had an MTN scholarship, foundation scholarship in Nigeria also. And then when he finished, David had another scholarship that took him down to the UK, and to be precise, Imperial College London. So that is where he did his master's. And guess what? David went to Imperial College in London to also graduate with distinction, which in Nigeria we call it first class. So he left Nigeria as a first class student and went to the UK on scholarship and also graduated as a first class student. So today we're having David here. David is going to let us know how that happened. The scholarship he had in the UK is going to let us know. We're going to be asking him some few questions. So if you have any question to ask him, also feel free to leave it in the comment section. So we're going to be finding out those things from David. He had his bachelor's in biochemistry in the University of Benin, like as I said earlier. And then he went over to the UK to graduate as a first class in human molecular genetics. Outside academics, David has a lot of leadership roles with which he has gotten himself involved, like the One Campaign UK, the UK Model WHO. He was also a leader at FECA Nigeria and Hive Network Africa and so many other things. So David has got a lot going on with his life and is a very core professional in his discipline. Right now, as I said, he's a PhD student in the University of Oxford in the UK. Without further ado, I want us to welcome David into the platform where we're going to be asking him some few questions so he can tell us some things about his experience, how he moved from Nigeria to UK as a scholarship student, and then how he managed after that. So please welcome David into the platform. You're welcome to today's episode of our interview, our podcast interview. We regularly do this, but today is very special. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Wow. So David, our platform is majorly covered by a lot of young people, and you're one of those young people. So interested to learn a lot from you today. We want to know more about how your journey was. First of all, we want to know the scholarship that took you from Nigeria to the UK. What is the scholarship called, and how did you find out about it?
Oh yeah, so I secured the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, right? It's one of those funding given by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, a government agency based in the UK, for citizens from Commonwealth countries, of which Nigeria is part of it. Chevening is also another scholarship. Probably some people might be aware, but it's specific for UK-based universities. So with Chevening and Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, you could choose any UK university of your choice. But then there are multiple Commonwealth scholarship, by the way. There is a Commonwealth shared scholarship where it's the same, it's literally under the same body, only that this time there are specific universities and specific courses that you can directly apply to. But the one I got is specifically Commonwealth Master. So I had the liberty to choose universities, up to 3 universities and 3 different disciplines of my choice and get it. So again, how I got to know about it all started with my undergraduate studies, to be honest. You know that situation where difficulty sometimes forces you to think innovatively and to come up with uncommon inventions out of the box, right? So of course I found myself in the University of Benin. I didn't really have the luxury of funds coming in from my parents, who were aged at the time. As at then, I really lost my mom and my dad was already retired, who is now late. I needed to think of alternative sources of income so I don't become so much of a financial burden to my people. So I started digging into scholarship. Of course, I knew I needed to take my academics quite seriously. So that's where I first of all saw the opportunities that scholarship presents for us to ace our academic studies. So considering my experience with Uniben, how I also got a scholarship in Uniben, I knew the next thing I really wanted to do was to consider the next available funding to study my course abroad. Now, permit me to say this quickly. I genuinely didn't consider studying what I studied in the UK just because I want to, in quotes, jackpot, as we often say, or find a quick way to leave the country. The course I really wanted to study, which is human molecular genetics, it's not so much a discipline that is robust in Nigeria. So because I really needed to do that course, I thought of the best way I could do it, since I didn't have the money, to take myself abroad was to dig into scholarship. So I went on the website, I was searching, I had friends who were also doing the same. We're encouraging ourselves in the application. But yeah, how I found about it is simply just by going online sometimes. It takes as simple as publicly available scholarships in the UK, and then sometimes the more you search, the more you find vital information, the more you find websites that you can subscribe to for regular updates. So that's basically how I got it.
Wow, that's awesome. First of all, condolences for the loss of your parents, and it's something that takes a lot of courage to move forward when you lose your both parents. Not an easy one. It takes a lot. Some people just get depressed and then that's it. They get done with anything moving forward. They get stuck at the point. So it takes a lot to still push and also move forward. So it tells a lot about your personality. It tells a lot about your resilience, your ability to push through challenges, and they really want to really appreciate you for that. So is there a way you can tell us how the application process is? Like you got the information, then how is the application process? What are the requirements? What are the things that you should know, we need to know?
Okay, so every different scholarship organization has core values that are critical to them, right? So I'm going to speak specifically for Commonwealth application because that's what I have. Chevening has a slightly different focus, but then there are some conventional and regular criteria. So, for instance, using my scholarship as an example, for the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, first you have to be from a Commonwealth country, right? So, Nigeria, a number of other African countries, even Indians also are allowed to apply. They are part of the Commonwealth country. So you have to be from one of those countries. Secondly, you should have, because it's postgraduate based, like it's only available at master's level, and there's also a Commonwealth PhD scholarship, by the way. So that one, you need to have at least completed an undergraduate education, and the minimum academic criteria is at least a 2-1, like a second class upper. However, sometimes I know people with 2-2 who have strong work experiences and relevant work experiences that could also push them up the application ranking. So besides that, graduate from a proper school with at least 2-1, be from a Commonwealth country, do quite a number of application essays. So I said this now, the Commonwealth Master Scholarship was one of the most demanding I'd applied for because they ask you to write over 10 essays that will make you think about your life from when you were born to your death. So you have to you need to have vision for your life. You need to be able to write about a lot of these things. And yeah, your work experience is also key. Those are some of the things. You need recommendation letters. So the relationships you have, who can recommend you, academic referees, professional referees, then conventional things like your G, the WAEC, as it were, you need to have at least aced them. So those are some of the basic documents, right? Then how you pour yourself into your application also matters. Now, let me also ask, a lot of people feel like sometimes with scholarship, one of the most important factors that play a role in helping you get a good scholarship, like a master scholarship, is you need to have graduated well, maybe with a first class. Those things increase your chances. True, they do increase your chances, but everything adds to the points that you eventually get. Your work experience is also important. So I knew I didn't have a relevant work experience at the time when I was going to apply for the scholarship, but I had volunteer and I was like a graduate research assistant for a university for almost a year without a dime. I was not being paid a dime, but the experience was relevant, and I ended up getting recommendation university head of the pool also. That was also significant in helping me get a scholarship. So this is also your chip that you might not have had the best academic track, or you can boost your chances by getting significant work experience, especially those ones that are relevant to the field that you apply for. So yeah, those are just a general overview.
Wow. Given what you just said, you don't have to be a first class student to access the scholarship. As
Oh,
far as the minimum is 2-1, right? And
yeah,
then as far as you have some other activities around you that could boost your chance of being considered in the scholarship, right?
yeah, sure.
Okay, and even a 2, like you mentioned 2-2, that somebody has a 2-2 and have some good work experience, the person also stand a chance, right?
So this is the thing, right? Now, if you were an assessor of a scholarship, and by the way, this is sometimes what I encourage applicants to do. When you apply for scholarship, don't think an applicant. First of all, it takes a scholar to get a scholarship. So you need to scholarly mindset first of all to get a scholarship. So this is how I want us to be fair. If you were the what is the word now? Maybe the one recruiting candidates for all of this scholarship. Now, if I have a 2-2, and let's say I have like 10 different publications in high ranking journal, I have a work experience, let's say like 5 years work experience. I've worked for some notable organizations relevant to the course I want to study, and I can show proof of that. I got good recommendation letter from maybe a professor from my school, or maybe one of my employers in the company, as against somebody with a first class with maybe little or no significant work experience, and then maybe the recommendation letter they didn't really put in a lot of content into the recommendation, quality of his essays are not as good, right? Who would you eventually pick? So this is the thing. Your academic background has a score that it contributes to your overall ranking in the book. The quality of your recommendation letter, the quality of your work experience, the quality of your essays, they are all bits and pieces in the final thing that plays a role in helping them make a decision about you. Yeah, so that is the point I'm trying to make. So I'm not saying if you get a 2-2, you would actually get in even with all of this, because sometimes it's also about the quality of
applicants.
at the moment, right? So,
Yes.
but that's the point I was trying to make even with that. But then on the website, the minimum eligibility criteria is usually from 2-1 and above.
Okay, get it clear now. So I'd like to encourage everyone that is still in school right now, putting something while I think, so if for instance, I am working in the university, maybe kind of like I'm assisting one of my lecturers, can that help?
Yeah, sure. Like a research experience, or again, it depends on what field you are looking at, right? And what you are going to study. Probably you want to study a course like international diplomacy, something related to that. And maybe you are working with an NGO where you are getting to practice that. That experience might be more relevant than maybe somebody as a research assistant in a university. But the most important thing is that so long you have a relevant experience, or an experience that shows that can give me an insight into who you are, right? Because this is how it is. Every single ingredient that go into the application give me a perspective or an opinion about who you are, right? So sometimes there is a unique story that your work experience can speak to me about you than you actually don't know, right? So yeah, I think that's exactly what I did. I was like a research assistant in a school. I volunteered, and I did it for 1 year. Because the thing is, they ask you essays like, what would you do? How would you come back to practice your course in the next 3 years? And what will you? Because the idea of the scholarship really is they train you so that you can come back home and develop your country with the skills you're going to learn, right? So a lot of the things I said was based on what I was doing in my current university and how I would improve, right? So why we can still go back to do that? I'm still gaining more skills even now here in the UK. Yeah. So
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Someone is asking at the other side that what is the name of the scholarship program? Yeah, it is called, the scholarship program is called Commonwealth Scholarship, right?
Commonwealth Master's Scholarship. Yeah.
Okay, Commonwealth Master Scholarship, Giovanni. Commonwealth Master Scholarship. Okay, so it's good to know that I've cleared that part, that it's not the scholarship is not only for first class students, because initially, to be honest, when I thought about the scholarship that you got involved in, I was like, because I know you're a first class student, so I was like, oh wow, so which means it's going to be open for only first class students. But good to clear that right now, that even a 2-1 can stand a chance to also get it. So also, is there any idea, is there any way you can, apart from research assistant in the university, kind of like NGO or voluntary services, that community services that can help? You think those things can help? If like I have a 2-1 and I got myself involved in community services, can that help?
Yeah, very well, very well. You know, there are some questions that they ask in that essay. Remember, I told you I wrote 10 different essays, right? So, by the way, maybe I didn't also say this. Commonwealth Master Scholarship, the whole purpose around the scholarship is your chances are higher based on the development impact need of your community. They are SDG centered. They are what is the impact that this course is going to make in your own home country, right? And there are some essays you have to write. Sometimes you don't want to write essays being vague. You have to tell a story. A lot of the stories I told in my essays, there were things I did in some of the voluntary organizations that I served in, because there are questions they will ask to test your leadership ability, questions centered your leadership, your community service mindset, right? So there are all of those things actually add to making you a strong candidate. So yes, NGO plays a significant role in showing your leadership ability, or your ability to give back to the community and all that. So yeah, it's very, very much.
Okay. Okay, good, perfect. So now I think I can summarize it in like your academic work, which could be a 2-1 minimum, and you're gonna write an essay, then you're gonna put in your application, right? And then is there gonna be a face-to-face interview or?
For this particular scholarship, they didn't do a face-to-face interview, but I know Chevening does, right? So for Chevening scholarship, after your essay application, they shortlist a number of candidates who will then go to do an interview. Oh yeah, sorry, I just missed me. That was wrong information. Yes, they did an interview. I went to Abuja for that. Yeah, that's true. So Commonwealth Masters Scholarship actually does conduct an interview by the Federal Scholarship Board somewhere in Abuja. They're the ones who organize that interview. So I went for a face-to-face interview. They asked me some questions as well. Yeah, that was very vital, because the thing is, for Commonwealth Master Scholarship, you must be nominated by your nomination agent. So, for instance, for the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, Federal Scholarship Board is the national nomination agent. There are also other NGOs that can as well nominate you for that scholarship, but their nomination slots are not as much as the one that comes from the national body. So I chose scholarship board, and then we went to Abuja, somewhere in Abuja, for the interview, and they did ask some questions. Yeah, so that is also very vital. You also have to pass that interview as well.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. So, like you mentioned, Chevney and Commonwealth, is there any other one apart from these two that you can really think of that you can recommend?
Yeah, there